Welcome back to DM Gives Inspiration. Today we're going to talk about making a better quest giver. And with this, we'll discuss filling out your NPCs, making them more interesting, a little bit of acting lessons for the DM doing the performance, but also how to add a twist, and if you can afford a twist, given your emotional bank account with your players. And based on your group, getting the players to accept a quest may be more difficult or easy. Some players really enjoy a more organic and open world experience, while others enjoy railroading, something that often has bad connotations, but there are those players who accept that if things seem to be going in a linear fashion, they are experiencing the best and most prepared content the DM has. Regardless of the difficulty selling the quest, we never want to forget that these NPC quest givers are salesmen. They need to convince the players to undertake their particular adventure. And in a video game, this transaction's already made. You need money, you need experience. So you're going to find the people standing around who are glowing or with symbols above their heads and interact with them as quickly as possible in order to get to the goods so you can get back to getting more goods. That sort of interaction is facilitated by the video game's systems, which you've come to understand by nature of playing the video game. You trust the game that when you engage in a quest, you will be paid with XP and gold on the other side. The game is making a deposit of trust in your emotional bank account. But let's say you walk into a town and maybe it's on fire, so clearly there's something going on, but all of a sudden a cutscene starts, and you are thrusted in to an adventure to save the town. That would be a withdrawal of trust. You didn't know that was going to happen. You didn't agree to this quest. The game system had not taught you along the way that this sort of thing could happen. It would also be a withdrawal if in that flaming town is a monster that knocks you out. Wait, I die when I get hit too hard. What if you fell a length that you normally can't in the video game? Or what if you swam in the cutscene and the game doesn't allow you to swim? Those are all withdrawals of trust, and we start to lose our interests in that video game. Our quest giver NPCs work under the same system. We need to establish early on in our campaigns a bed of trust that we can then spend and make withdrawals from later if we choose. So let's use an example quest. Let's say there is a basement full of dire rats. An NPC wants to hire adventurers to get rid of the dire rats. We can use systems like tavern boards or even gossip to help inform our players that this quest exists. And this NPC, being a living and breathing person, understands that they need to attract adventurers in order to get their quest completed. So the quest giver running straight out of their house, grabbing the adventurers by the cuff and saying, please, please help me destroy these rats, is a withdrawal of trust. This is a random happening. They don't feel in control of the situation. By using those gossip chains, having it informed by a tavern owner, or even a job posting board, we can begin that transaction. And if you're thinking, why can't we just skip the NPC? I mean, we've already gotten the job, we heard the gossip, we head down to the basement, kill the rats, and then go back to the tavern. We need that human element to ground the story, to make sure that it functions. A human being, or half-elf or whatever your world calls for, starting the quest means things are small and then can expand from there. Action-packed starts are a withdrawal of that trust. If the rats suddenly leapt out of the basement and attacked everybody, are there rats in every basement? You wake up most days in a bed and go about your day. Very rarely does the door explode open and your day rushes in on you. We can also have a quest start from a note they may have found on a previous adventure, but that still needs to lead to an interactable person. It's what gives us those highs and lows in an adventure. Now, by way of job posting or gossip, we have established that this person, this quest giver, is ready to give payment for the objective being completed. So we've already built some trust, and they arrive on the scene ready to talk to the quest giver. This is not a lore dump, and this is not a puzzle for the players. This is a sales pitch. Think of it like a dungeon. They enter the main room. This is where the main information is going to be. Help me, adventurers. There's dire rats in my basement. They advance through that room. Maybe they have questions along the way. If they ask good questions, this is where they might discover secret passages or hidden doors. So let's say our quest NPC here with the rat-infested basement is a successful cloth merchant. We've already covered some bases here. They have the funds to hire adventurers, and we understand the time limit associated with rats living amongst wealthy fabrics. Right now, this isn't a very tantalizing quest, so we can choose to up that curiosity. We want every quest to embody something either about the character or about the world that the players will find interesting. This could be an opportunity to set up that there is an upcoming ball at the palace, and this cloth merchant needs their fabrics to make the dresses for said ball. Or perhaps it'd be a good opportunity to let the players know about a foreign faction, another kingdom that they're actively trading with. Or you might have a druid player who really wants to pet the Fey Llama in the back. This conversation dungeon that we're leading our players through is themed based on the quest giver NPC. This is a cloth merchant themed dungeon. So when they present their information, they're doing so as a cloth merchant. They don't care about the integrity of the shelves down there. That would be a carpenter's thought. They're worried about their most expensive product, maybe that Fey Llama wool that they keep down there. And they want extra emphasis that that is recovered without damage. We can also ask ourselves here if this cloth merchant would understand what a dire rat is. Or would their concern lie with, where it probably would, with holes appearing in their cloth where they were attacked in the dark by some sort of creature? The puzzle on the side of the players is asking good questions. Hopefully they'll ask natural questions like, what happened down there? Did you see the creature? Whether they ask those simple questions or not, we're going to supply that information. We are going to give them directions of how to get into the basement. We're not here to waste anybody's time. If we don't give directions, then we better have a good reason for it, such as, the location of the basement was lost to time, but my brother might know where it is. You can see how that would be a withdrawal of trust from the players. So there's several things we need to figure out in order to fill out this dungeon of conversation about our NPC. What is it they want? What is the ideal success of this venture? Why did they need adventurers? Why couldn't they just contact the palace, who would send down some troops to clear out the basement? Well, it would be an embarrassment to this merchant to have creatures climbing all over the lovely fabrics that the ladies of court are going to wear to the upcoming ball. That sort of information would not be part of the main dungeon layout of our conversation, but if the players ask good questions, make good persuasion, insight rolls, they may be able to open those secret doors to additional information. But all information from our NPC should be based on the perspective of our quest giver, this cloth merchant here. When they describe where they were when they were attacked in the basement, they would say, between the silks and the chiffon. They don't say, oh, well, when life gives you lemons. They say, oh, well, when life gives you scraps, you make a quilt. And in that same vein, what can they reward the players with? Do they actually have currency available to give? Or would they trade with their trade? Would they give the players a rare fabric? Or perhaps offer to make them something instead? The further we are away from the cities, the less likely we are to have coin. Now, of course, here in our example, we have a merchant who's interacting with a kingdom. Likely they have just plain old coin to give the adventurers as a reward. Are they nervous about interacting with adventurers? Or have they done this sort of thing in the past? Right before the adventurers arrived, what were they up to? Were they trying to maybe get back in the basement themselves and got scared off? Were they barricading the basement to make sure that whatever it is down there doesn't get into the rest of the shop? Think about the moment before, and this is where we get into a little bit of acting tips. What sort of simple environmental cues can you give this NPC as traits to better establish where the players are. If they walk out of a building, blow in their hands, and rub them together, it's cold outside. If they fan towards their face and sigh, we know it's a hot day. We didn't have to say those things aloud, but we're establishing the environment the players are entering. So same here goes with the nervousness or the confidence of our merchant NPC. They are communicating through their emotions here, their experience with this engagement. And body language can be huge to helping you actually make this performance convincing. If you want to be a sly, cheeky bard, throwing your legs up on a table and crossing them and pretend to play a little guitar action is going to help you immensely get into that character. It can feel cheesy, but it works and you'll see a reaction from your players. So here, if we have a nervous cloth merchant, how can we communicate that? To get you into character quickly, we could have you using invisible crochet needles in your hands, and that gives you a little small something to collapse inward and make this character possible. Should this NPC become loved by the players and become a reoccurring quest NPC? Well, now we have this little motion to communicate immediately when they're on the scene. And at this point, we have everything we need for a basic adventure. We have the hook, the players accept, they head into the basement and deal with the problem. We have made a slight withdrawal in trust by making our cloth merchant unaware of what attacked them in the basement and might be destroying their goods. But that's okay, because we've been pretty trustworthy up to this point. If we haven't been making deposits of trust, well then it's probably better that our NPC comes out and goes, "Rats, rats, I saw giant rats, big ones!" and doesn't play coy. If we want to add additional twists, we are pulling from that stock of trust we had over the course of adventures well before this one. And a twist doesn't have to be something groundbreaking. It can be something as simple as regarding the adventurers as expendable products. Maybe the reward was a lie. They simply do not have the funds at this time to pay the players. They say they'll pay them in 2 weeks. When it's over, they offer to give them those rare fabrics instead. But trust was broken in our NPC here. Maybe there's no ball at all, but they're actually making armor for the evil faction that our players have been fighting this entire campaign. Or maybe the quest giver, knowing the players' reputation for destruction, is actually a rival cloth merchant who is posed as the owner of this establishment is going to let them in through a window, and as they destroy this poor basement workshop, they will pocket the profits of being the only cloth merchant in town. That last one is a big outrageous withdrawal. So we reimburse our players' trust a little bit by saying things like, "Retrieve a box, but don't open it." Or "Clear the basement, but leave the back room untouched. Do not open that door." If your players are particularly observant, you could make this plot twist happen on the payment side. I need you to retrieve 10 yards of silk. Well, the player's handbook lists a yard of silk as worth 10 gold pieces. So if they're paying 3 times the price to get this silk out of there, it must be special silk. Are your players the type of people who would pick up on that hint and therefore receive that deposit of trust? And of course, if no one catches the twist, it's pulled off well, nobody feels like they've been conned, you just let it happen. And later on down the road, when they revisit this town in the future, they notice our cloth merchant is completely out of business. Though there seems to be a lot of fanfare around our other merchant in town. You could also choose to have our NPC here be more interactive with the party, that they enter the house and unlock the basement for them, or they stay outside in fear. Maybe they even choose to venture into the basement to see what that creature was that was assaulting them. That shouldn't be a story choice. That should be something organic you have happen in the situation because the players are digging your NPC. And you'll know this pretty easily. Players are notoriously rude to NPCs they're not enjoying. If they do fully embrace this NPC, then we elevate their status, even reaching that reoccurring quest giver who could be with them through a huge chunk of these adventures. The next time they see this NPC, note how the adventure solved their situation and elevated their status, or how their world changed, or if the players were destructive and cost them a lot of money and now they've had a setback. That is also a deposit in trust, in that the player's actions have results. And these trustful NPCs, these understandable adventures, build that account which we can cash out for ripping open the sky and letting loose demons, if that's what you want to do with your savings. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. You can find more about the show over at kylefergusson.com, 2 S's in Fergusson. Music was by Brian Griffith, and I'll see you all next week with a new topic for DM Gives Inspiration.